The oil seller's daring pursuit of the courtesan queen. Youth boast of romance. In the world of waves they dwell. Money without looks is a story hard to tell. Looks without money, what a spell. Even with both, there is still much to sell. Witty lads know the charm. Who can rival me in this dance? A tale of the West River Moon. A humorous stance. Prostitutes love charm. Madams love cash, they say. In the world of courtesans, beauty like Panan, wealth like Deng Tong, natural harmony in play, become the king of the flowers, the chief of the mandarin ducks. Yet, there is a secret called assistance to see, like shoes with sides, like clothes with a lining. You and me, whatever talent a young lady may boast, with help, she excels the most, covering flaws with grace and charm, whispering soft, keeping warm, to avoid what's disliked and favor the joy, using emotions to match, a clever ploy. In the world of romance, those who assist gain, looks without looks, money without the strain. Imagine Zheng Yuan as a beggar, nowhere to go. Li Yaxin meets him in the snow, moved by pity, she offers her wealth and food, becoming his wife, for he understands the mood, not for money or looks, but for his charm. So, Yaxin's heart is warmed. Remember when Yaxin craved horse gut soup, Zheng killed the prized horse, keeping the loop. Such devotion, how could she forget? Later, he passed the exam. Yaxin's future set, from poverty to nobleman's embrace, a tale of love, beyond time and space. A quilt of brocade covers their story. In the world of romance, it became a glory. When fortune fades, even gold loses its luster. Yet when times are favorable, even iron gleams. The Song dynasty, from its founding by Emperor Taizu to the succession of Emperor Taizong, through 7 generations of rulers, Emperors Henzong, Renzong, Shenzong, and Zhezong, all focused on promoting culture and maintaining peace, ensuring the safety of the people and the prosperity of the nation. However, when Emperor Huzong ascended the throne, he placed his trust in Keijing, Gao Qiyu, Yang Jian, and others. He indulged in extravagant gardens and devoted himself solely to leisure, neglecting the affairs of state. This led to widespread resentment among the populace, and the Jin invaders seized the opportunity, turning a splendid world into a shattered realm. Amidst this turmoil, the 2 emperors were captured, and Emperor Gaozong fled south, crossing the Yangtze River on a clay horse. The land was divided into north and south, and only then did a semblance of peace return. During these years, the common people suffered immense hardships, as the poem poignantly describes. In the midst of armored horses, life clung on. Amongst the ranks of swords and spears, homes were made, slaughter became a game, and plunder a way of life. There was a man who lived in Anli village, outside Bianliang city. His surname was Shin and his first name was Shan. His wife was surnamed Ruan. The couple ran a small grocery store called Liu Chenpuhe. Although they primarily sold rice, they also had a full range of miscellaneous goods like wheat, beans, tea, wine, oil, and salt. Their household was fairly prosperous. Over 40 years old, they had only one daughter, whose nickname was Yeokin. From a young age, she was not only beautiful but also extremely intelligent. At the age of 7, she was sent to the village school to study and could recite 1,000 words a day. By the time she was 10, she was able to compose poems and essays, and one of her poems gained widespread admiration. The poem goes, "Silken drapes fall with golden grace, incense wafts through the painted place, move the pillow, fear to wake the pair, light the lamp, cherish the blossoms rare." By the age of 12, she had mastered the arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. When it came to needlework, her skill with the needle was nothing short of extraordinary, a talent not born of mere teaching, but a natural gift. Shan, having no son of his own, sought a son-in-law to support him in his old age. Due to his daughter's exceptional talents, many suitors came seeking her hand, but none were deemed worthy. Unfortunately, when the Jurchen invaders ravaged the land and besieged Bianliang city, despite the many armies dispatched to defend the kingdom, the prime minister advocated for peace talks, forbidding combat. This only emboldened the invaders, who eventually breached the capital and captured the 2 emperors. The citizens outside the city were terror-stricken, abandoning their homes to flee for their lives, dragging along the elderly and children. Shan, along with his wife, Ruan, and their 12-year-old daughter, joined the masses in fleeing, carrying their belongings and traveling in groups. They hurried in desperation like lost dogs, and scurried like fish escaping a net, burdened by thirst, hunger, and exhaustion. They questioned where they would find refuge, calling out to heaven and their ancestors, wishing only to avoid the marauding invaders. As the saying goes, better to be a dog in peaceful times than a human in chaos rhymes. As they traveled, they did not encounter the Jurchen invaders but instead came across a group of defeated and disheveled soldiers. Upon seeing many refugees carrying their belongings, the soldiers deceitfully shouted, "The invaders are coming," and set fires along the way. As dusk approached, the frightened refugees scattered in panic, abandoning each other in haste. The soldiers seized the opportunity to rob them, killing those who resisted. This was chaos within chaos, adding misery upon misery. Shin Yeokin was caught in the turmoil and was knocked down. When she got up, she found herself separated from her parents. Afraid to call out, she spent the night hiding in an ancient tomb by the roadside. At dawn, she ventured out to find the land covered in wind-blown sand and the road strewn with corpses. The people who had fled with her the previous day were nowhere to be found. Longing for her parents, Yeokin wept bitterly. Without knowing the way, she could only walk south, taking one agonizing step after another for about 2 miles. Overwhelmed with sorrow and hunger, she spotted a small earthen house and approached it, hoping to beg for some food. But when she reached the house, it was a deserted ruin, its inhabitants having fled. Sitting by the mud wall, she cried in despair. As the saying goes, without coincidence, there is no story. Just then, a man named Bu Kiao happened to pass by. He was a neighbor of Shin Shan, known for his lazy, unprincipled ways, often living off others and spending money freely. People called him Bu Dalang. He had also been separated from his companions by the soldiers and was traveling alone that day. Hearing Yeokin's cries, he hurried over, recognizing her from childhood. Yeokin, in her desperate state with no one to turn to, saw him as a familiar face and immediately stopped crying. She stood up, greeted him, and asked, "Uncle Bu, have you seen my parents?" Bu Kiao, thinking to himself, "I lost my belongings to the soldiers yesterday and have no money. Now fate has brought this meal ticket to me, a rare opportunity," lied to her, saying, "Your parents were heartbroken when they couldn't find you. They have gone ahead and asked me to bring you to them, promising a generous reward." Though Yeokin was intelligent, in her helpless situation, she trusted him completely and followed Bu Kiao. As the saying goes, knowing he wasn't a true companion, she followed in urgency. Bu Kiao shared his dry food with her and instructed, "Your parents traveled through the night. If we don't meet them on the road, we must cross the river to Jiankang Prefecture to reunite with them. We will travel together, and you will call me father to avoid suspicion." Yeokin agreed. From then on, they traveled together by land and water, posing as father and daughter. Upon reaching Jiankang Prefecture, they heard that Jin Wushu's fourth prince had crossed the river with his army, making it clear that Jiankang would not remain peaceful. They also learned that King Kang had ascended the throne and was now residing in Hangzhou, renamed Linan. They continued their journey to Runzhou by boat, passing through Suzhou, Changzhou, Jiaxing, and Huzhou, eventually reaching Linan. There, they temporarily stayed in an inn. Throughout the journey from Bianliang to Linan, a distance of over 3,000 miles, Bu Kiao had used up all his remaining money, even selling his outer garments to pay the innkeeper. He was left with only Yeokin, whom he intended to sell. He discovered that Madame Wang Juma, a brothel owner by West Lake, was looking for an adopted daughter. He brought her to the inn to inspect Yeokin and negotiate the price. Madame Wang was impressed by Yeokin's beauty and agreed to pay 50 taels of silver. Bu Kiao accepted the money and delivered Yeokin to Madame Wang's house. In front of Madame Wang, Bu Kiao claimed, "Yeokin is my biological daughter. She has unfortunately ended up in your care. Please teach her with patience, and she will naturally obey." To Yeokin, he said, "Madame Wang is a close relative of mine. I will temporarily place you in her care while I search for your parents and then come to fetch you." With this assurance, Yeokin willingly went with Madame Wang. Such a pity, a talent so rare. Teahachi ended in a world so unfair. In the harsh life of courtesan strife, her brilliance dimmed by a troubled life. Madame Wang Juma had recently acquired Yeokin and gave her new clothes, hiding her away in the depths of her establishment. She provided her with the best food and drink, and spoke kindly to her to make her feel comfortable. Yeokin, resigned to her fate, settled in. After a few days, without any word from Bu Qiao and missing her parents, she tearfully asked Madame Wang, "Why hasn't Uncle Bu come to see me?" Madame Wang replied, "Which Uncle Bu?" Yeokin said, "The one who brought me to your house, Bu Dalang." Madame Wang said, "He claimed to be your biological father." Yeokin responded, "His surname is Bu, and mine is Shin." She then recounted the story of escaping from Biangliang, losing her parents, encountering Bu Qiao, and being brought to Linan, along with Bu Qiao's deceit. Madame Wang said, "So that's how it is. You are an orphaned girl, a crab without legs. I should be honest with you, that man, Bu, sold you to me for 50 taels of silver. We run a household relying on courtesans for a living. Although we have 3 or 4 adopted daughters, none are exceptional. We appreciate your beauty and have treated you as our own daughter. When you grow up, we promise you will live a life of luxury." Upon hearing this, Yeokin realized she had been deceived by Bu Qiao and burst into tears. It took Madame Wang a long time to comfort her. From that point on, Madame Wang changed Yeokin's name to Wang Mai, and everyone in the household called her Mai Niang. She was taught to sing, play musical instruments, and dance, excelling in all these arts. By the age of 14, she had grown exceptionally beautiful. In Linan, young noblemen, enchanted by her beauty, came bearing lavish gifts to see her. Some admired her for her artistic talents, seeking her poems and calligraphy, never leaving her doorstep. She became so famous that she was no longer called Mai Niang, but Mai Niang Niangzi. The young men by Westlake composed a song called Hanging Branch praising the Mai Niang. Among all the young ladies, none compares to Wang Mai's grace. She can write, she can paint, she can compose poems. Singing and dancing are mere pastimes. She is often compared to Shishi of Westlake. Even Shishi cannot match her. Whoever is fortunate enough to be with her, would willingly die for her. Because of Wang Mai's great fame, by the age of 14, there were proposals for her to come out as a courtesan. Wang Mai refused, and Madame Wang, valuing her like gold, did not force her against her will. Another year passed, and Wang Mai turned 15. There were certain customs in the courtesan households regarding this. 13 was considered too early, known as flower testing. 14 was called flower opening, and 15 was called flower picking. Those still considered young in common households. Courtesan households saw it as the right time. Wang Mai had not yet come out, so the young men by Westlake composed another hanging branch song. Wang Mai's like a papaya, so fair, beautiful to look at, with grace and flair. At 15, untouched, in innocence she gleams. Fame without substance is not what it seems. If not a stone woman, she is in someone's dream. Still pure, how to endure the itch and its scheme? Madame Wang, hearing these rumors, worried about her reputation, urged her daughter to accept guests. Wang Mai firmly refused, saying, "I will only meet guests if I can see my real parents. Only if they agree, will I comply." Madame Wang was both angry and reluctant to force her. One day, a wealthy man named Lord Jin offered 300 taels of silver to groom Mai Niang. Madame Wang, seeing the large sum, devised a plan with Lord Jin. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, they invited Wang Mai to Westlake to watch the tide and brought her onto a boat. With several accomplices, they played drinking games and got Mai Niang drunk. They carried her back to Madame Wang's house and laid her on a bed, unconscious. Madame Wang then personally undressed her, leaving her naked for Lord Jin to take advantage of her. Lord Jin's endowment was not exceptionally impressive, so he gently spread her buttocks apart, and with some saliva, he pushed it in. When Mai Niang woke up from the pain in her dream, she had been teased enough by the second Jin. She wanted to struggle, but her hands and feet were weak, so she was flirted with by him. Only when green fades and red petals fly, do the clouds part and rain bids goodbye. In rain, the flower's bloom has just begun. In the mirror, her brows are no longer as they once shone. At dawn, Mai woke up from her drunken sleep, realizing that Wang Juma had schemed to compromise her. Feeling a deep sense of misery, she got dressed and sat on a bamboo couch, facing the wall, silently shedding tears. When Lord Jin came to approach her, she scratched his face in anger, leaving several bloody marks. Feeling embarrassed, he left at dawn, ignoring Wang Jiuma's attempt to make him stay. Unlike other suitors who celebrated their conquest with days of feasting, Lord Jin's early departure was unprecedented. Wang Jiuma, curious about the situation, went upstairs and found Mai Niang crying. Despite her attempts to console her with soothing words, Mai Niang remained silent. Mai Niang spent the entire day in tears, refusing food and drink. She pretended to be ill and refused to see any guests. Wang Jiuma, growing increasingly anxious, contemplated various ways to coax her into resuming her duties. Fearing that Mai Niang's strong-willed nature might backfire, Wang Jiuma hesitated to pressure her directly. Finally, she remembered her sworn sister, Lucy, a skilled and persuasive talker who often visited. Hoping that Lucy could change Mai Niang's mind, Wang Jiuma sent a servant to invite her over. When Lucy arrived, Wang Jiuma explained the situation. Lucy assured her, "Leave it to me. I am known for my silver tongue and can persuade anyone." Wang Jiuma, grateful, offered her tea to keep her throat moist. After a few cups of tea, Lucy went to the rear building and gently knocked on the door, calling. Niece recognizing Lucy's voice, Mai Niang opened the door, and they sat down together. Lucy noticed an unfinished silk painting on Mai Niang's table and praised her skill. Mai Niang, embarrassed, asked about Lucy's unexpected visit. Lucy explained that she had come to celebrate Mai Niang's new status, but Mai Niang blushed and remained silent. Sensing her discomfort, Lucy moved closer, took her hand, and said, "My dear, you can't afford to be shy. How will you ever make good money?" Mai Niang retorted. "Why do I need money?" Lucy replied. "You have grown up under Wang Jiuma's care. Don't you think she deserves a return on her investment? Every successful girl is like a well-tended crop, and you are the best she has." Lucy continued. "Since your debut, you haven't entertained a single guest. How do you expect the household to thrive? If you don't contribute, the others will suffer. You must shoulder your responsibility and not let others criticize you." Mai Niang replied defiantly, "Let them say what they will. I don't care." Lucy responded, "Criticism is a small matter, but do you understand the workings of this household?" Mai Niang asked. "What do you mean?" Lucy explained. "In this business, girls are like assets. When you are young, you are nurtured with care, but once you make your debut, you are expected to bring in profits. The front door welcomes new patrons while the back door bids farewell to old ones. The constant flow of gifts and services is what keeps the household thriving." Mai Niang protested. "I can't do this." Lucy laughed and said, "It's not up to you. In this household, the mother is in charge. If you don't follow her rules, you will face harsh punishment. Wang Jiuma has been kind to you, respecting your dignity and beauty. She asked me to reason with you because she believes in your potential. If you continue to resist, she'll have no choice but to punish you severely." Lucy continued, "If you don't comply, you will be beaten until you submit. By then, your reputation and worth will be ruined. You will be laughed at by your peers and forced back into the business. It's better to embrace your role and enjoy life while you can. Save money for the future and support the household. In 10 or 5 years, if you find someone truly compatible, I'll help you marry properly." Hearing this, Miniang smiled faintly, and Lucy knew she had made progress. She assured Miniang, "Follow my advice, and you will thank me later." As Lucy left, Wang Jiuma, who had been listening, was pleased with the outcome. Mai Niang, though reluctant, began to accept guests again, earning the household substantial profits. Her fame grew, and she sought a true and sincere match, hoping for a better future. The Mai Niang said, "I am a daughter of a good family, fallen into this unfortunate life. If you can help me leave this world, it would be a greater blessing than building a 9-tiered pagoda. If I had to keep smiling at the door and entertaining new and old guests, I'd rather die." "I would never agree to that," Lucy replied. "My dear, leaving this life is a noble goal. Why wouldn't it be possible?" "But there are different ways to leave," the Mai Niang asked. "What are the different ways?" Lucy explained. "There is true redemption, false redemption, bitter redemption, joyful redemption, taking advantage of the situation, helpless redemption, lasting redemption, and incomplete redemption. Listen carefully while I explain. True redemption is when a talented man and a beautiful woman meet, forming a perfect match. Though it is often hard to achieve, if they meet, they cannot be separated. One desires to take the other as a spouse, and they remain inseparable like silk moths. This is true redemption. False redemption is when a young man loves a girl, but the girl does not love him. She pretends to agree, spending his money, but when the time comes, she makes excuses and does not follow through. Or, the girl knows the young man is not right for her but insists on marrying him. After entering the household, she creates discord and is eventually sent back to her former life. This is false redemption. Bitter redemption is when a girl does not love the young man but is forced to marry him due to circumstances. The mother, fearing trouble, agrees. The girl enters the household, where life is harsh and she lives as a servant, enduring a strict family hierarchy. This is bitter redemption. Joyful redemption is when a girl chooses a young man who is kind, wealthy, and has a good-hearted wife without children. She hopes to marry and bear children, becoming the mistress of the household. This is joyful redemption. Taking advantage of the situation is when a girl, having enjoyed the life of luxury, chooses a suitor from men admirers while still in her prime, ensuring a comfortable future before her beauty fades. This is taking advantage of the situation. Helpless redemption is when a girl, without the intention of leaving, is forced by legal or financial pressures to marry someone, regardless of the circumstances, for peace and stability. This is helpless redemption. Lasting redemption is when an older girl, after many hardships, meets an elderly man with whom she can live in harmony until old age. This is lasting redemption. Incomplete redemption is when a girl, passionately following a man, faces obstacles from family or jealousy, causing discord and eventually being sent back. Or, when the household cannot support her, she must return to her former life. This is incomplete redemption. The Mai Nyang asked, "What should I do to leave?" Lucy replied, "I have a plan. Though your past cannot be changed, you can still find a good match. If you refuse to entertain guests, your mother might sell you to someone willing to pay, but it is better to find a suitable suitor and follow your mother's wishes. With your talents, only nobles and wealthy men would pursue you. Enjoying life while young and saving money for the future is wise. If you later meet someone compatible, I can help you marry properly." Hearing this, the Mai Nyang smiled and felt hopeful. Wang Juma, who had been listening, saw Lucy's wisdom and agreed with her plan. Lucy, having softened the Mai Nyang's heart, promised to find a suitable suitor. Wang Juma thanked her and prepared a meal for them. Later, young men by the West Lake praised Lucy's eloquence, saying, "Lucy, your words are powerful. Like a skilled diplomat, you persuade with ease, turning even the most stubborn minds." The Mai Nyang, convinced by Lucy's words, began accepting guests with a newfound hope, attracting more admirers. Her fame grew, and she became highly sought after, earning 10 taels of silver each night. Wang Juma prospered, and the Mai Nyang continued searching for a true and sincere match. As the saying goes, priceless treasures, easy to find, but a true lover, so hard to bind. The story continues. Outside Kinbal Gate in Linen City, there was an old man named Zushi, who ran an oil shop. 3 years earlier, he had adopted a young boy named Kinzhong, who had fled from Bianliang. Kinzhong's mother had died early, and his father, Qin Liang, had sold him at the age of 13 and gone to Shangshan Temple to offer incense. Due to having no children and recently losing his wife, Zushi treated Kinzhong as his own son and renamed him Zuzhong, teaching him the trade of selling oil. Initially, father and son managed the shop well, but Zushi later developed a painful back condition and could not work. He hired an assistant named Xingquan to help in the shop. Time flew by, and before they knew it, 4 years had passed. Zuzhong had grown into a handsome young man of 17. Although he was already of age, he had not yet married. There was a maid in Zushi's household named Lan Hua, over 20 years old, who had taken a liking to young Master Zhu. She tried several times to seduce him, but Zuzhong, being an honest person, and finding Lan Hua unattractive, did not respond to her advances. Frustrated, Lan Hua turned her attention to the assistant Xingquan. Xingquan, nearing 40 and without a wife, readily accepted her advances. The two secretly became lovers and began to plot against Zuzhong, seeking to drive him out. Lan Hua falsely accused Zhu Hong of molesting her in front of Zhu Shi, who had previously had an affair with Lan Hua and was now somewhat jealous. Xing Quan also hid the shop's earnings and accused Zhu Hong of gambling and stealing money. Although Zhu Shi did not believe it at first, repeated accusations made the old man, already senile and indecisive, finally call Zhu Hong to scold him. Zhu Hong, a clever boy, saw through their scheme, knowing that arguing would not help and might worsen the situation if the old man did not believe him. He devised a plan. He said to Zhu Shi, "The shop's business is slow and does not need 2 people. Let Xing Quan manage the shop, and I will carry the oil to sell on the streets, returning the earnings daily. This way, we can have double the business." Zhu Shi was somewhat persuaded, but Xing Quan, adding fuel to the fire, said, "He only wants to leave because he has secretly saved enough money from the years of stealing and resents you for not arranging a marriage for him. He wants to find his own wife and start his own life." Sighing, Zhu Shi said, "I treated him as my own son, yet he harbors such ill will. Heaven does not favor me. Well, since he is not my blood, there is no real bond. Let him go." He then gave Zhu Hong 3 taels of silver and sent him away, allowing him to take his clothes and bedding as well. This was a rare act of kindness from Zhu Shi. Realizing that he could no longer stay, Zhu Hong bid farewell with 4 deep bows, crying bitterly as he left. As the saying goes, loyalty leads to death by deceit. Like Shen Shang's life cut short by lies complete. If one's own child can be treated so cruel, an adopted one has even less to fuel. It turned out that Qin Liang had gone to Shangshan Temple to offer incense, without informing his son. After leaving Zhu Shi's home, Zhu Hong rented a small room under Zhonggan Bridge, put down his belongings, locked the door, and began searching for his father along the streets. After several days with no news, he had no choice but to give up. During his 4 years at Zhu Shi's home, Zhu Hong had been loyal and diligent, without any personal savings, except for the 3 taels of silver given to him when he left. This was not enough capital for starting any business. After much consideration, he decided that selling oil was the best option. The oil shops knew him well from his time at Zhu Shi's store, so he decided to buy an oil carrying pole and invest the remaining silver in purchasing oil. The oil shop owners, knowing Zhu Hong to be honest and hard-working, and aware that Xing Quan had driven him out, felt sympathy for him and decided to support him. They gave him the best quality refined oil and allowed him some leeway in the measurements. With this advantage, Zhu Hong was able to sell his oil easily, earning a modest profit each day. He lived frugally, saving up for daily necessities and clothing. However, his mind was constantly preoccupied with thoughts of his father. He reflected, "I have been called Zhu Hong, but who knows I am actually Qin Hong. If my father comes looking for me, there will be no way for him to find me." So, he reverted to his original surname, Qin. For people of higher status, restoring one's original surname would require official approval from the court or relevant authorities. But for a humble oil seller, who would notice? Qin Hong had a method. He wrote the characters Qin and Bianliang on his oil barrel as an identifier, making it clear to all. This way, people in Linand knew his real name and called him Qin the oil seller. In February, with mild weather, Qin Hong heard that the monks at Heoking Temple were organizing a 9-day merit-making event, which required a large amount of oil. He brought his oil to the temple, where the monks, knowing of his good reputation and quality oil, chose to buy exclusively from him. For 9 consecutive days, Qin Hong was at the temple, selling oil. As the saying goes, harshness won't make riches flow, kindness brings no loss, you know. On the 9th day, Qin Hong sold all his oil at the temple and left with an empty pole. The weather was clear, and the streets were crowded with people. Walking along the river, he admired the beautiful scenery of peach blossoms and willow trees, and the boats filled with music and dancing. Tired from walking, he found a quiet spot by Heoking Temple, put down his pole, and sat on a stone to rest. Nearby, there was a house facing the lake, with a golden fence and a neat courtyard. A young woman, graceful and elegant, bid farewell to a few men who left the house. Qin Hong, seeing her beauty, was captivated. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman and a maid emerged from the house and noticed his oil pole. The woman called out, "Ah, I was just thinking of buying oil. Why not get some from the seller?" The maid brought an oil bottle and called, "Oil seller Qin Hong, snapping out of his daze, replied, "I have no oil left. I will bring more tomorrow." The maid, seeing the character Kin on the barrel, remarked, "The oil seller's name is Kin." The woman, having heard of Kin the oil seller's honest reputation, said, "We need oil daily. If you bring it, we will be your regular customers." Kin Hong agreed gratefully and left, thinking about the beautiful woman he had seen. As he prepared to leave, 2 sedan chair bearers arrived, carrying a silk curtained sedan, followed by 2 attendants. The attendants brought items to the sedan, and the young woman from before got in. Seeing this, Kin Hong was filled with curiosity and longing, his mind abuzz with thoughts. Just a few steps away, by the river, stood a tavern. Kin Hong, who rarely drank, was both pleased and troubled after seeing the girl. He put down his load, walked into the tavern, and chose a small table to sit at. The waiter approached and asked, "Are you hosting guests or drinking alone?" Kin Hong asked. "Whose house is that beyond the golden fence?" The waiter replied, "That's the garden of Kies Mansion, where Madame Wang Juma now resides." Kin Hong continued, "I just saw a young lady getting into a sedan chair." "Who was that?" the waiter explained. "That was the famous courtesan, Wang Miniang, known as the Flower Queen. She is originally from Beijing and ended up here. She excels in singing, dancing, music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Only the wealthy can afford her company, as she charges 10 taels of silver for a night. She used to live outside Yongjian Gate, but the space was too small. Half a year ago, the Qi family lent her their garden." Hearing she was from his hometown, Kin Hong felt even more drawn to her. After a few drinks, he paid the bill and resumed his journey, thinking to himself, how tragic that such a beautiful woman ended up in a brothel. He laughed at himself. If she weren't in a brothel, how would a simple oil seller like me ever see her? As he walked, his thoughts wandered. Life is short, like grass that grows for a season. If I could hold such a beauty for just one night, I would die happy. Then he scolded himself. Fool, I make just a few coins each day carrying this oil. How can I dream of such things? It is like a toad dreaming of eating swan meat. He continued. She entertains noblemen and princes. Even if I had the money, she wouldn't accept me. But another thought struck him. I have heard madams are only interested in money. Even a beggar with silver could spend a night with her. Why not an honest oil seller? If I had the money, she would surely accept me. But where can I get those 10 taels of silver? Lost in thought, he muttered to himself as he walked home. What a foolish dream. A small tradesman with a capital of only 3 taels, dreaming of spending 10 taels on a famous courtesan. It is a springtime fantasy, but then he remembered, where there is a will, there is a way. He devised a plan. Starting tomorrow, I'll save a bit of my earnings each day. If I save 1 penny a day, in a year, I'll have 3 taels and 6 coins. In 3 years, I'll have enough. If I save 2 pennies a day, it'll take only a year and a half. If I save more, even better. With this plan in mind, he reached home, unlocked the door, and went inside. His thoughts had been so preoccupied that he barely noticed his surroundings. Seeing his humble bed, his spirits sank, and he skipped dinner, heading straight to bed. That night, he tossed and turned, thinking of the beautiful Flower Queen, unable to sleep. As the saying goes, her moonlit beauty, flower's grace, stirs my heart in restless chase. At dawn, Kin Hong woke up, loaded his oil cart, and cooked his breakfast. He hurried off to Wang Juma's house. Entering, he hesitated to go straight in and peeked inside. Wang Juma, who was buying groceries, saw him and recognized his voice, calling out, "Kin the oil seller." Wang Juma smiled and said, "What a reliable man. You kept your word." She invited him in to weigh the oil, which was a bit over 5 pounds. Kin Hong paid fairly without haggling. Wang Juma was very pleased and said, "This bottle of oil will last me 2 days. Deliver it every other day, and I won't buy elsewhere." Kin Hong agreed and left, regretting he hadn't seen the Flower Queen, Wang Miniang. He thought, I'm glad to have her as a regular customer. If I don't see her once, I'll see her the next time. He continued thinking, going to Wang Juma's house isn't enough for business. Shaoqing Temple is on the way. They must need oil regularly. I'll ask there. If I get them as customers, my oil can be sold quickly. At the temple, the monks had been thinking about buying oil from Kin Hong. They bought varying amounts, and Kinzhong arranged to deliver oil every other day. From that day on, Kinzhong had a routine on odd days. He worked in different streets on even days. He went to Qiantang Gate, first stopping at Wang Jiuma's house under the pretext of selling oil to see the Flower Queen. Sometimes he saw her, sometimes he didn't. When he didn't see her, he pondered over her, and when he did, he thought about her even more. As the saying goes, though the sky and earth will meet their end, this yearning, this sorrow, will never amend. Kinzhong visited Wang Jiuma's house many times, and everyone in the household recognized him as Qin the oil seller. Time passed quickly, and over a year went by. Each day, he diligently saved small amounts of money, accumulating a significant sum over time. He saved small coins, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time, gradually exchanging them for larger denominations. One day, it was raining heavily, and Kinzhong did not go out to do business. He took the opportunity to gather his savings and decided to weigh them. He took an oil umbrella and went to the nearby silver shop, borrowing their scale. The young silversmith, initially dismissive, gave him a standard 5-tael weight to use, thinking it would be more than sufficient. When Kinzhong opened his bag of silver, it contained many small pieces. The silversmith, seeing the amount, realized he had underestimated Kinzhong. The total weight came to exactly 16 taels. Kinzhong thought to himself, after deducting 3 taels as my initial capital, the rest will cover the cost of one night in the flower district. With some left over, he decided to melt the small pieces into larger ingots to avoid appearing impoverished. He exchanged 10 taels for a single large ingot and another smaller ingot of 1 tael and 8 qian. With the remaining 4 taels and 2 qian, he bought some essentials and a new headscarf. Returning home, he washed his clothes, burned incense to purify them, and chose a clear day to dress up. Though not a guest of wealth or fame, he's a charming youth. All the same, Kinzhong, looking neat and tidy, hid the silver in his sleeve, locked his door, and headed towards Wang Jiuma's house. Upon reaching the door, he felt embarrassed and hesitant, thinking, I usually sell oil here, but now I come as a customer. How should I approach this? Just then, Wang Jiuma appeared and greeted him warmly. Noticing his fine attire, Kinzhong, mustering his courage, greeted her and said, I have come to visit you, madam. Wang Jiuma, experienced in discerning people, saw his attire and demeanor and thought, he must want to spend a night with one of my girls. She smiled and invited him in. At the guest room, Kinzhong was treated with unexpected hospitality. The maid brought tea, and Wang Jiuma scolded her for laughing inappropriately. She then asked Kinzhong his purpose. He replied, I wish to spend a night with one of your girls, specifically the Mainang. Wang Jiuma, initially thinking he was joking, became stern and said, do you know the price? It costs 10 taels of silver, excluding other expenses. Kinzhong presented a large ingot and a smaller one, asking Wang Jiuma to arrange the meeting. Wang Jiuma, seeing the silver, could not refuse but warned him of the challenges. She explained that her girls entertained nobles and wealthy men, and it would be difficult for him to gain their favor. She advised Kinzhong to dress more appropriately and return in 3 days when the Mainang would be available. Kinzhong agreed, spent the next 3 days preparing, and purchased a silk robe to look the part. On the 4th day, he arrived early at Wang Jiuma's house but waited until the guests had left. He discreetly inquired about the household's visitors and, after having breakfast at a nearby inn, returned to Wang Jiuma's house. As he entered, Wang Jiuma greeted him with a smile, saying, I am sorry, but I am busy again today. Young Master Han took the Mainang to the East Manor to admire the early plum blossoms. He is a frequent customer, so I could not refuse. He mentioned he would visit Lingayan Temple tomorrow to play chess with a chess master. Young Master Qi has also invited her several times, and he is the landlord here, so I cannot decline. When he visits, he stays for 3 to 5 days, and even I cannot set a specific date. Qin, you will have to be patient for a few more days. If you wish, I can return your previous gift. Untouched, Kinzhong replied. I trust that you will arrange it, madam. Even if it takes a long time, I am willing to wait. Wang Jiuma said, very well, you are very sincere. As Kinzhong prepared to leave, Wang Jiuma added, next time, come in the late afternoon, around the hour of Shen. Whether there are guests or not, I will give you a clear answer. The later, the better. This is my advice. King Hong thanked her and left. The next day, he resumed his oil selling business in a different area. Each evening, he dressed neatly and visited Wang Juma's house, but he did not succeed. A month passed without any progress. On the 15th of December, after a heavy snow, the weather was cold but the ground was dry. Kin Hong did his usual business in the morning and, as always, visited Wang Juma's house in the evening. She greeted him warmly, saying, "Today, your luck is almost complete." Kin Hong asked, "What is still missing?" Wang Juma replied, "The main person is not home yet. She is at a banquet on a lake boat, hosted by General Yu. He is an elderly man and not interested in romantic affairs. She will be back by dusk. Meanwhile, you can wait in the new guest room with a cup of hot wine." Kin Hong agreed and followed Wang Juma to a set of 3 rooms, not a building, but very spacious. The left room was for the maid, the right one was the Mai Nyang's locked bedroom, and the central guest room was elegantly furnished. Kin Hong, feeling unworthy, admired the setup and thought, if the exterior is so exquisite, the interior must be even more luxurious. Tonight's expense is well worth it. Wang Juma invited him to sit, and soon a maid brought a table with 6 bowls of fruit and a variety of dishes, their aroma filling the room. Wang Juma toasted him, saying, "All the girls are busy, so I will accompany you. Please enjoy." Kin Hong, mindful of his goal, drank only half a cup and ate sparingly. The maid then announced that the bath was ready. Despite having bathed earlier, Kin Hong felt obliged and went through the motions. As night fell, he grew anxious, but Wang Juma entertained him with conversation. As the saying goes, waiting anxiously for someone is stressful. Kin Hong became increasingly impatient as the Mai Nyang did not return home. Wang Juma tried to console him with conversation and drinks, and before they knew it, another hour had passed. Finally, there was commotion outside as the Mai Nyang returned. A maid announced her arrival, and Wang Juma hurried to greet her, while Kin Hong stood up in anticipation. The Mai Nyang, visibly drunk, was supported by a maid as she entered. Seeing the brightly lit room and the remnants of a feast, she stopped and asked, "Who is drinking here?" Wang Juma explained, "My dear, this is the Kin I mentioned to you before. He has admired you for a long time and sent gifts, but you were always busy. Tonight, I have arranged for him to accompany you." The Mai Nyang, unfamiliar with Kin Hong's name, responded, "I have never heard of any Kin in linen. I refuse to entertain him," and turned to leave. Wang Juma quickly blocked her way, insisting, "He is a sincere person. I promise he won't disappoint you." Reluctantly, the Mai Nyang re-entered the room and scrutinized Kin Hong, feeling a vague sense of familiarity but unable to recall his face due to her drunken state. She said, "Mother, I recognize him, but he is not from a reputable family. Entertaining him would bring ridicule." Wang Juma reassured her, "This is Kin, the silk merchant from Yongjin Gate. When we lived there, you must have met him. He is genuine, and I promised him this night. Please, for my sake, endure it for one night. If I am wrong, I'll make it up to you tomorrow." Reluctantly, the Mai Nyang complied. As the saying goes, 1,000 schemes escape her grip. You can a million plans from her hold you shan't. Though you may have countless ways to cope, following her lead is your best hope. Kin Hong heard every word, pretending not to notice. The Mai Nyang greeted him with a polite bow and sat down, observing Kin Hong with suspicion and displeasure. Without speaking, she called for hot wine and poured a large cup. Wang Juma thought she was offering it to Kin Hong, but she drank it all herself. Wang Juma advised, "My dear, don't drink too much," but the Mai Nyang insisted, "I am not drunk." She drank 10 more cups, becoming heavily intoxicated, and eventually ordered the maid to open the bedroom. Without removing her hairpin or changing her clothes, she kicked off her embroidered shoes and collapsed onto the bed, falling asleep immediately. Wang Juma, feeling embarrassed, apologized to Kin Hong. "My daughter is used to acting this way. She is not feeling well today, but it is not because of you. Please don't mind it." Kin Hong replied, "I won't dare." Wang Juma then urged Kin Hong to drink a few more cups before sending him into the bedroom, whispering to him to be gentle as the Mai Nyang was drunk. She also tried to wake her daughter, but the Mai Nyang did not respond. The maid cleaned up the table and, at Kin Hong's request, brought a pot of hot tea before retiring to the servant's quarters. Kin Hong saw the Mai Nyang sleeping soundly, facing away and partially covered by the quilt. He noticed another red silk quilt on the railing and gently covered her with it. Careful not to wake her, he adjusted the lamp, took off his shoes, and lay beside her, holding the teapot in one hand and placing his other arm over her. During the night, the Mai Nyang awoke, feeling the effects of the alcohol and a sense of fullness in her chest. She sat up in bed, head down, and began to retch. Kin Hong quickly sat up to help, placing his hand on her back. Soon, she could not hold it in and began to vomit. To avoid soiling the bedding, Kin Hong used the sleeve of his robe to catch it. The Mai Nyang, unaware of this, continued to vomit freely. After she finished, she kept her eyes closed and asked for tea to rinse her mouth. Kin Hong got out of bed, gently removed his soiled robe, and placed it on the floor. He poured a cup of fragrant, warm tea and handed it to her. She drank 2 cups, feeling slightly better but still exhausted, and lay back down to sleep. Kin Hong carefully placed the soiled robe aside and lay back down, holding her gently as before. The Mai Nyang slept until morning and awoke to find someone beside her. She asked, "Who are you?" Kin Hong replied, "I am Kin." She vaguely remembered the events of the previous night and said, "I was very drunk last night." Kin Hong responded, "Not too much." She asked, "Did I vomit?" Kin Hong replied, "No, you did not." She said, "That's good." Thinking back, she added, "I remember vomiting and drinking tea. Was it a dream?" Kin Hong explained, "You did vomit. I anticipated it and kept the tea warm. You asked for tea afterward, and I served you 2 cups." The Mai Nyang, surprised, asked, "Where did I vomit?" Kin Hong replied, "I used my sleeve to catch it, so it did not soil the bedding." She asked, "Where is it now?" He said, "I wrapped it up and placed it aside." She remarked, "What a pity to ruin your robe." Kin Hong said, "It is just my robe. I am honored to have served you." Hearing this, the Mai Nyang thought, "What a considerate person." She began to feel a bit of warmth towards him. By dawn, the Mai Nyang woke up and got out of bed to relieve herself. As she looked at Kin Hong, she suddenly recognized him as Kin the oil seller and asked, "Who are you really? Why were you here last night?" Kin Hong replied, "Thank you for asking, Mai Nyang. I am indeed Kin Hong, the one who often sells oil at your house." He then explained how he had first seen her, admired her, and saved money for the chance to be with her, detailing his efforts to be near you for one night is the fortune of a lifetime, he added. Hearing this, the Mai Nyang felt more compassionate and asked, "I was very drunk last night and did not entertain you properly. Do you regret spending so much money?" Kin Hong replied, "You are like a celestial being. I only feared not serving you well. I am already fortunate that you did not reproach me, let alone hope for anything more." She advised, "You should save your money for your livelihood. This place is not for someone like you." Kin Hong replied, "I am alone, with no family to support." The Mai Nyang paused and then asked, "Will you come again after today?" Kin Hong said, "Being close to you for one night has fulfilled my dreams. I would not dare to hope for more." The Mai Nyang, thinking, such a kind, honest, and considerate person is rare to find among common folk, felt a growing fondness for him despite his humble status. While she pondered, a maid brought in wash water and ginger soup. After washing his face and drinking the soup, Kin Hong prepared to leave. The Mai Nyang asked him to stay a little longer, but Kin Hong, mindful of her reputation, said, "I admire you deeply and would love to stay, but I fear others might find out and tarnish your name. It is better I'll leave early." Understanding, the Mai Nyang sent the maid out and quickly retrieved 20 taels of silver, offering it to Kin Hong, saying, "Last night must have been difficult for you. Take this as capital and tell no one about it." Kin Hong initially refused, but she insisted, "My money is easily earned. This is just a token of my gratitude. If you ever need more, I can help you again. As for your soiled robe, I will have the maid wash it for you." Kin Hong replied, "There is no need to trouble you. I can wash it myself, and I should not accept your generous gift." She insisted, "Nonsense," and placed the silver in his sleeve, urging him to leave. Bowing deeply, Kin Hong accepted the silver, wrapped his soiled robe, and left the room. Passing by Wang Jumo's room, she noticed him and called out, "Kin, why are you leaving so early?" He replied, "I have some errands." I will come back another day to thank you properly. Upon Kinzong's departure, the Mai Nyang found herself surprisingly affected by his sincerity. Despite having no real connection, his genuine affection left a mark on her. Feeling unwell from the previous night's drinking, she declined to entertain other guests and spent the day recovering at home. Throughout the day, her thoughts lingered on Kinzong, unable to forget his earnestness and kindness. As a poem goes, "Charming dear, not of noble lineage or house, you are an honest broker, a kind and gentle spouse. Who could have guessed you'd be so tender and mild, understanding and considerate, with a heart undefiled? You are not the type to be harsh or insincere, your loyalty and warmth are always clear. Though I try to set aside my thoughts of you, they always return, no matter what I do." Meanwhile, back at Zhu Shi's home, Xingquan and Lan Hua, emboldened by Zhu Shi's illness, plotted to steal the shop's capital and elope. One night, they carried out their plan, taking everything and fleeing into the night. The next morning, Zhu Shi discovered the theft and, with the help of neighbors, reported the crime. After several days with no leads, Zhu Shi deeply regretted being deceived by Xingquan and expelling Kinzong. Hearing that Kinzong was renting a place and selling oil near Zongan Bridge, Zhu Shi decided to bring him back and rely on him in his old age. With the neighbors' help, they persuaded Kinzong to return, asking him to remember the good and forget the bad. Upon hearing this, Kinzong packed his belongings and returned to Zhu Shi's house. Their reunion was emotional, filled with tears. Zhu Shi entrusted all his remaining savings to Kinzong, who also had his own savings of over 20 taels. With renewed determination, Kinzong reopened the oil shop, operating under the name Zuzong to honor Zhu Shi. Within a month, Zhu Shi's condition worsened, and he passed away. Kinzong mourned him deeply, treating him as his own father, and arranged a proper burial, performing all the rites. The neighbors praised his filial piety and integrity. Afterward, Kinzong continued running the shop, which was an old and reputable business. Xingquan's previous mismanagement had driven away many customers, but seeing Kinzong in charge, people returned, and the business flourished. Kinzong, still single, sought an experienced partner to help him. One day, a matchmaker named Jinzong introduced a man in his 50s named Xinshan. Xinshan, from Anli village outside Bianliang, had fled south during the chaos and lost his daughter Yaoqin to the confusion caused by soldiers. He and his wife, Ruan, wandered for years in hardship. Hearing that Linen was prosperous and hoping his daughter might be there, Xinshan came searching but found no news. Running out of money and being chased for unpaid debts, he heard from Jinzong about the need for an assistant at Zhu's oil shop. Having experience in selling oil and being from the same hometown as Kinzong, he asked for an introduction. Moved by their shared background and Xinshan's plight, Kinzong invited the couple to stay with him, treating them as family. He gave them money to settle their debts and provided them with a room. Xinshan and his wife diligently helped with the business, and Kinzong was pleased with their assistance. Time passed quickly, and over a year later, many suggested matches for Kinzong, admiring his sincerity and successful business. However, Kinzong, having seen the Mai Nyang's beauty, could not consider anyone else. He resolved to find an extraordinary woman before settling down, delaying any decisions. As the saying goes, after witnessing the vast ocean, no other waters compare. After beholding Mount Wushan, no other clouds suffice. Back at Wang Jumo's house, although the Mai Nyang, Wang Minyang, enjoyed a life of luxury and pleasure, she often found herself thinking about Kinzong, especially when feeling down or unwell. She missed his sincere affection and regretted not being able to see him again. A year later, an incident occurred that changed her fate. In Linen City, there was a young nobleman named Wu Ba, the son of Wu Yu, the governor of Fuzhou. Wu Ba, who had recently returned from his father's post, was wealthy and enjoyed gambling and drinking. He had heard of the Mai Nyang's fame and repeatedly sent people to invite her, but she declined, disliking his character. He even visited her house several times with his friends, but she refused to see him. During the Qingming festival, while everyone was out visiting graves and enjoying the spring, the Mai Nyang, exhausted from socializing, decided to stay home and catch up on her poetry and painting. She instructed her household to turn away all visitors and locked herself in her room. However, Wu Ba, leading over 10 rough men, arrived to take her on a boat ride. When Wang Juma tried to turn them away, they caused a scene, breaking into the Mai Nyang's room. They found the door locked, as was customary when avoiding unwanted guests, but Wu Ba, experienced in such matters, ordered his men to break the lock and drag her out. Despite her resistance, they took her out of the house and onto the street, her small shoes making it difficult to keep up as Wu Ba followed triumphantly. They reached the lake and forced her onto a boat. Having been raised in luxury since the age of 12, the Mai Nyang was unaccustomed to such harsh treatment. She covered her face and cried as the boat sailed out. Wu Ba, sitting arrogantly, scolded her harshly. "You ungrateful little wretch. Stop crying, or you'll get a beating." But the Mai Nyang continued to sob. Upon reaching the lakeside pavilion, he ordered her to join him for drinks, but she clung to the railing, refusing to move. Frustrated, he finished a few drinks himself and attempted to drag her again. She struggled and cried even louder. Enraged, Wu Ba's men removed her hairpins and earrings, and when she ran to the edge of the boat, threatening to jump, they held her back. Wu Ba declared, "I won't be intimidated by your tricks. Even if you die, it's just a few taels of silver to me, but sparing your life is also a mercy. If you stop crying, I'll let you go." Hearing this, the Mai Nyang stopped crying, hoping for freedom. He then ordered the boat to a secluded spot near Kimbo Gate, removed her embroidered shoes, and exposed her small, delicate feet. He had his men help her ashore and mocked her. "If you are so capable, walk home on your own. No one will escort you." With that, he pushed the boat away and left her there. As the saying goes, burning zithers and cooking cranes, such deeds aren't new, yet how men truly cherish jade or fragrant hues. The Mai Nyang, barefoot and unable to walk, lamented her fate, thinking, "Despite my beauty and talents, I have fallen into such lowly circumstances. I have known many noblemen, yet in my time of need, none are here to help me. Returning home in disgrace seems unbearable. I might as well die, but dying without a cause would tarnish my reputation. I curse Lucy for leading me into this pit of despair." The saying "a beautiful woman's fate is often tragic" has never been truer than for me. The more she thought, the more she despaired, and she burst into tears. By coincidence, that day Qin Hong had gone to the cemetery outside Kimbo Gate to pay respects at Zhu Xi's grave. On his way back, he heard crying and approached to see what was wrong. Despite her disheveled appearance, he recognized her beauty and was shocked. "Mai Nyang, why are you in such a state?" he asked. Hearing his familiar voice, she stopped crying and saw it was Qin Hong, the kind-hearted oil seller. Overwhelmed with emotion, she poured out her troubles to him. Qin Hong, deeply moved, also shed tears. He took out a white silk handkerchief, tore it in half, and used it to wrap her feet, wiping her tears as well. He gently reassured her, saying kind words. Once she had calmed down, Qin Hong called for a warm sedan chair and escorted her back to Wang Juma's house. Wang Juma, frantic with worry, was overjoyed to see Qin Hong bringing her daughter home. Hearing of Qin Hong's recent success in taking over Zhu's oil shop, she welcomed him warmly, setting up drinks and gratitude. As evening approached, Qin Hong prepared to leave, but the Mai Nyang insisted he stay, saying, "I have longed to see you again. You must not leave empty-handed." Wang Juma also urged him to stay. That night, the Mai Nyang sang and danced for Qin Hong, displaying all her talents. Qin Hong felt as if he were in a dream, overwhelmed with joy. As the night deepened, they retired together, and their time together was beyond words. One is a hard-working youth, the other, a lady of seasoned truth. He recalls 3 years with dreams and strife. She cherishes a night of close delight. She thanks for past support, adding grace to this night's court. He appreciates the night's embrace, each night growing in love's trace. The courtesan spills her powder case, handkerchief stained, in a daze. The oil seller spills his oil jar, wet blankets where dreams spar. How amusing, a villager's loss, for a young man's windy floss. After the intimate moment, the Mai Nyang said, "I have something important to tell you, and you mustn't refuse." Qin Hong replied, "If you need me, I will go through fire and water for you." "How could I refuse?" the Mai Nyang said. "I want to marry you." Qin Hong laughed. "You could marry 1,000 men, and I still wouldn't be one of them. Please don't joke and mock me, the Mai Nyang insisted. I am serious. Since I was forced into this life at 14, I have wanted to leave it, but I have never met someone worthy, fearing to make a mistake and ruin my life. The men I have been with are all rich and indulgent, seeking pleasure without true affection. Only you are sincere and trustworthy, and I have heard you are not yet married. If you don't mind my past, I want to serve you faithfully for life. If you refuse, I will take my life to prove my sincerity. It would be better than dying nameless and mocked yesterday. She began to cry. Qin Hong said, please don't be sad. I am honored by your love and would be grateful to marry you. But you are worth so much, and I am poor. How could I manage? The Mai Nyang replied. Don't worry. I have saved money for this purpose and can redeem myself without burdening you. Qin Hong asked, even if you redeem yourself, you are used to a life of luxury. How can you live in my humble home? She answered. I will be content with simple living. Qin Hong said, I am afraid your mother won't agree. She reassured him, I have a plan. They talked until morning, planning their future together. The Mai Nyang had stored her belongings with her acquaintances, including officials like Hanlin Scholar Wang, the son of Minister Han, and Secretary Qi. She discreetly retrieved these items and had Qin Hong store them at his place. She then took a sedan chair to visit Lucy to discuss her desire to leave the brothel. Lucy, previously informed of this intention, agreed to help if the Mai Nyang chose someone suitable. The Mai Nyang assured her that it would be a genuine and happy marriage, worthy of Lucy's help, offering 10 taels of gold as gratitude. Lucy, delighted with the gold, agreed to assist. Lucy went to Wang Jumo's house, where Wang recounted the incident with Wu Ba. Lucy suggested that having a modest, reliable girl would be better for business, as the Mai Nyang's fame had become a burden. Wang Jumo agreed, and they discussed finding someone willing to pay a large sum for her freedom. Lucy, eager to help, suggested the amount and promised to talk to potential buyers. Upon returning home, Lucy informed the Mai Nyang that her mother had agreed, provided they saw the money first. The next day, Lucy returned to Wang Jumo's house, where the Mai Nyang opened several boxes, revealing gold and jewels worth 1,000 taels. Lucy, astonished by the wealth, expressed her admiration for the young woman's resourcefulness. She accepted the additional gifts from the Mai Nyang and negotiated her freedom with Wang Jumo. Wang Jumo, though initially displeased with the hidden wealth, realized the benefits of the arrangement. She agreed to the deal, and Lucy ensured the money was handed over, drafting a marriage contract. The Mai Nyang, with Lucy's support, packed her belongings and bid farewell to her adoptive parents, moving to Lucy's house. Soon after, Qin Hong, informed of her freedom, arranged a wedding with music and celebration. Lucy served as the matchmaker, and Qin Hong and the Mai Nyang enjoyed a joyous wedding night. The next day, the couple paid respects to Qin Hong's parents, who were surprised to learn the Mai Nyang was their daughter. They celebrated the reunion with a grand feast, and the Mai Nyang sent gifts to her old acquaintances as thanks. With the wealth she had accumulated, the Mai Nyang entrusted Qin Hong with managing their assets, including buying property and expanding their business. Shin Shan, Qin Hong's father-in-law, managed the oil shop, and the family prospered. Grateful for their good fortune, Qin Hong donated to various temples, including Xianzhu Temple, where he finally reunited with his father, Qin Gong, who had become a monk. Qin Hong, now renamed Qin, convinced his father to return home temporarily to meet his new wife. The family held a grand banquet, celebrating their reunion and Qin Hong's return to his original name. Though Qin Gong preferred to stay at the temple, Qin Hong built a new residence for him there, ensuring regular visits and support. Qin Hong and his wife lived happily, raising 2 sons who became scholars. Their story became a legend in the community, and Qin Hong, known as the oil seller, was remembered for his loyalty and kindness. In spring, blossoms bloom anew, bees and butterflies compete in view. Men adore the sons of luxury's clan, but none can match the charm of an oil-selling man.